Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Go Local News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the News and Politics show. Nothing more dominating the news of politics probably in the last 24 hours than the release of the poll from Citizens for Life, Liberty, Pursuit, and Happiness pertaining to Rhode Islanders' views on abortion in the state. And I have Carey Jeffrey, who is pretty instrumental in the rollout of this poll. So Carey, thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to come in. The release went out and clearly a lot of reaction on all sides. But let's take the step back a little bit to your involvement with this group, the decision to first start with a poll, and then we'll go from there.
So you heard of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, right? Well, this is Mrs. Jeffrey, went to Providence to the hearings, and I kept hearing about this poll that said 71% of Rhode Islanders support abortion. So I went there to talk about my experience with Planned Parenthood, and what it was is I had gotten a survey, this is like 30 years ago, from Planned Parenthood saying, can you believe those anti-abortionists, they want to take away your right to have an abortion up to 9 months. And I was like, what? I'm not for that. And so so to hear that poll at the hearing over and over again, 71%, I was like really wondering about that. So I thought, and then I found out it was just one question, and it was, do you support legalizing abortion? And so it really didn't define it. And then on top of it, with talking to friends and family, and many of them, most of them are liberal Democrats, they were kind of, disgusted by this idea, and they, reading about what was happening in New York, it was like, we don't want New York's extreme abortion laws here. So we started doing a petition, and we were getting like over 700 signatures in a day. And so we were like, okay, we're riding a tidal wave of disgust. Let's put a number on it. Let's get a poll and see, how accurate we could get it.
So talk a little bit about the decision-making process of going through and asking the questions. The data that came out from the poll was 73.8% of Rhode Islanders believe that abortion should not be legal up until birth. A number of other questions as well as to Rhode Islanders' views about when abortion should be legal. Let's talk a little bit about the decision-making and how you came up with the questions that were in the poll.
So, it's a complicated issue. I'm not a medical person. I'm not a lawyer. But all I was trying to do was find the most accurate pollster that I could to give information to the General Assembly that they could actually make laws on. And so it's not, we're not a political organization, we're not religious, we're just providing information.
And so, of course, you've gotten a ton of feedback, I'm sure, since the poll was released yesterday. Plenty of folks in the pro-choice community said, specifically as it regards to the Reproductive Health Care Act, that some of these questions didn't necessarily address that, because they said the Reproductive Health Care Act would codify Roe v. Wade in Rhode Island and would not allow for abortion to be legal up until 9 months. So what was your reaction when you heard some of this reaction to the questions that were posed?
All right, so like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but in my mind, Roe v. Wade looks like it was written by Rush Limbaugh compared to this act. And I can't even call it a Reproductive Health Care Act because it's not reproduction, it's killing a baby. All right, it's not health because nobody will answer the question, how is it healthy for a woman to have a second or third trimester abortion? And thirdly, the act itself on the bottom of the first page, beginning of the second page, says no one can be restricted from terminating a pregnancy, including regarding fetal viability. All right, so I'm not going to get the words right, but that's the concept.
So do you think, and this is the way we posed it today, does this change the debate on Smith Hill?
All I'm doing is I'm not political, I'm not religious. I do have faith because after all, this is Rhode Island, and Roger Williams came here for freedom of religion, not freedom from religion, and so I'm just here to provide information. That's it.
So what now? The poll has been released. You said, you're not political. Will you be up at the State House testifying if the opportunity arises?
Well, I'll have to consider each invitation, but what I would say is that the petitions that we have the online and written petitions. We have over 8,000 signatures against these two specific bills. So I think there's a lot of information for lawmakers to listen to. I think they need to represent average Rhode Islanders versus Planned Parenthood and what they want.
And so, as you mentioned, there's petitions available as well, because that was my next question. Mm-hmm. What now for the Citizens for Life, Liberty, and Pursuit of Happiness?
Well, we're going to keep gathering those signatures, keep gauging how people really don't want these laws.
And, as we talked about getting some of that feedback, some folks had accused it of being a push-pull or leading questions. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, what I would say is I'm pretty sure what was released is just the top lines and not the script. Okay, so you can't, get into that.
About the actual methodology of the poll. Do you imagine you'll go back in the field at any point to gauge Rhode Islanders' viewpoints?
Depending on the result of this interview, maybe.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to come in, because, as we said, it has really dominated the news cycle for the past 24 hours, and will continue to do so moving forward, with a lot of reactions on all sides of the issue. But having been so intimately involved with this, wanted to have you in, so I appreciate your taking the time.
Right.
Carey Jeffrey, thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching today, as we brought you the latest in news and politics here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, from Jennifer Lawless down at the University of Virginia, Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea, and then John Flaherty with GrowSmart Rhode Island. Be sure to join us tomorrow when we're back on live here at Go Local. In the meantime, catch us on Facebook and catch us on GoLocalProv.com. I'm Go Local News Editor Kate Nagel.